doing some really interesting research lately on fighting cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And you sent over this press pulse protocol that really caught my eye.
Uh-huh.
It seems like a pretty unique approach,
Yep.
using a mix of diet, supplements, exercise, and even heat.
Right.
So what's the big idea behind it all?
Well, the idea is to put stress on cancer cells from multiple angles to make them more vulnerable.
Okay.
You're essentially trying to create this hostile environment where those cells just can't thrive.
Interesting. And it starts with the nutritional ketosis, right?
Yep.
For those of us who haven't encountered that before.
Right.
What exactly is it, and why is it so important in this case?
So nutritional ketosis is a metabolic state where your body starts using fat for fuel instead of glucose, which is sugar.
Okay.
And the reason this is key is that cancer cells love sugar. They depend on it for energy.
Uh-huh.
So by limiting glucose through a ketogenic diet,
Okay.
which is very low in carbs and high in fat,
Got it.
you essentially cut off their main energy supply.
So we're basically starving the cancer cells from the get-go.
Exactly.
Now I see this protocol also includes a press phase with specific supplements like milk thistle, berberine, and even mebendazole.
Right.
What can you tell me about these?
Sure.
I know mebendazole is usually used for parasites, isn't it?
Yes, mebendazole is typically an antiparasitic drug.
Right.
But what's fascinating is that research is showing it might also have anti-cancer properties.
Okay.
It seems to disrupt the structure of cancer cells, interfering with their ability to grow and divide.
So it's like repurposing an old tool for a new fight.
Exactly.
That's pretty innovative.
Yeah, it is.
And what about milk thistle and berberine?
Yeah.
What roles do they play?
Well, milk thistle is a powerful antioxidant and a protector of the liver.
Okay.
This is really important because your liver is working overtime to filter out toxins, especially with a protocol like this one.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like providing support for the body's natural detoxification system.
Yeah.
And what about berberine? What makes it so interesting?
Berberine has a few key actions.
Okay.
First, it helps regulate how cells use energy, which can slow down that rapid growth that's typical of cancer cells.
Uh-huh.
And second, it disrupts specific signaling pathways within cells that are involved in growth and survival.
Okay.
Think of it as disrupting the communication system that cancer cells rely on to coordinate their growth and spread.
So it's like throwing a wrench into the machinery of cancer cell growth.
Exactly. You're disrupting the processes that allow cancer cells to thrive.
Okay, so we've got these supplements working together to target cancer cells.
Right.
What else is involved in this press phase?
In addition to the keto diet and these targeted supplements,
Yeah.
this phase also includes regular resistance training and heat stress therapy.
Wait a minute, heat stress therapy. Does that mean saunas are part of this protocol?
Yes, saunas or even hot tubs can provide that heat stress.
Wow.
What's interesting is that heat can damage cancer cells while leaving normal cells relatively unharmed. It's like they have a different tolerance for heat.
Interesting.
There's even research suggesting that heat can make cancer cells more susceptible to other treatments.
So we're making them vulnerable on multiple fronts.
That's the goal.
And what about resistance training? I can definitely see the benefits for overall health,
Yeah.
but how does that tie into fighting cancer?
Well, exercise, especially resistance training, plays a really crucial role.
Okay.
First, it boosts your metabolism, meaning you burn more energy.
Right.
This puts pressure on cancer cells that are already struggling due to the restricted glucose from the ketogenic diet.
Uh-huh.
They're essentially competing for dwindling resources.
So it's like turning up the heat even further on those cancer cells.
Right.
Got it.
And second, exercise helps reduce inflammation in the body.
Right.
Chronic inflammation can contribute to cancer development.
Okay.
So by reducing it, we're creating a less favorable environment for those cells to grow.
This is all fascinating stuff.
Yeah, a bit.
It's like a carefully planned attack strategy. So we've got the press phase, which applies constant pressure.
Right.
But then there's this pulse phase.
Yeah.
What happens there?
The pulse phase is where things get even more intense.
Okay.
It involves short periods of intermittent fasting.
Got it.
So you're adding another layer of metabolic stress.
Okay.
Essentially, you're further limiting the availability of nutrients to the cancer cells, pushing them even closer to their limits.
So they're being challenged even more during this phase.
Yes.
And I see that the supplement dosages are increased as well.
Yes, during the pulse phase, you up the dosages of milk thistle, berberine, and mebendazole
Okay.
to maximize the disruption to those cancer cells.
I see.
It's like sending in reinforcements to make sure they're really feeling the pressure.
Got it.
Now, you might also slightly reduce the intensity of your workouts during this phase,
Okay.
just to give your body a bit of a break.
Okay, so we're strategically ramping things up and then backing off a bit to allow the body to recover.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious about is the science behind all of this.
Uh-huh.
How exactly does this press pulse strategy create such a hostile environment for cancer cells?
That's a great question, and that's where the real intrigue lies.
Yeah.
This protocol targets several key vulnerabilities of cancer cells.
Okay.
First, it reduces their energy production, essentially starving them.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it forces them into a process called autophagy,
Okay.
where they essentially start eating themselves for energy.
Wow.
And guess what? Cancer cells are more susceptible to this self-destruction.
Wow. So we're not just starving them, but we're actually using their own internal processes against them.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
What else is happening?
Remember how cancer cells thrive on glucose?
Yeah.
The ketogenic diet and the intermittent fasting combined also deprive them of another crucial nutrient, glutamine.
Okay.
This further hinders their ability to grow and survive.
It's like we're cutting off all their supply lines.
Exactly.
Are there any other ways this protocol targets them?
Here's another fascinating aspect. Cancer cells often have dysfunctional mitochondria,
Okay.
which are like the powerhouses of cells.
Right.
This protocol makes their mitochondrial function even worse,
I see.
further hindering their ability to produce energy and survive.
This is all really fascinating, and it's clear that this protocol is doing a lot more than just attacking cancer cells directly.
Yes.
It's like we're disrupting their entire world.
Exactly. It's a multi-pronged approach that exploits their vulnerabilities on multiple levels.
I'm really impressed by the depth and strategy of this protocol.
Pretty amazing.
But before we move on,
Yeah.
I think it's crucial to emphasize that this is a complex topic,
Right.
and anyone considering it should absolutely consult with a healthcare professional.
I completely agree.
This is not something to try on your own.
Right.
It's crucial to have the guidance and supervision of a doctor who can monitor your progress and make adjustments as needed.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. All right, so far we've unpacked the press and pulse phases, along with the targeted supplements and other therapies involved.
Right.
It's amazing how each element seems to play a very specific role in disrupting the very foundation of cancer cell survival.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable.
But there's so much more to explore.
Uh-huh.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the science behind the press pulse protocol and how it actually plays out at the cellular level.
Okay, sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the press pulse protocol. You know, as we were discussing the different elements of this protocol, it really struck me how strategic and multi-layered it is. It's
Yeah.
not just about attacking cancer cells directly.
Right.
It's about setting up this whole system to weaken them.
It's like we're playing a game of chess,
Yeah.
thinking several moves ahead
Right.
and anticipating the cancer cell's responses.
Exactly.
We're not just reacting,
Right.
we're dictating the terms of engagement.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and strategic.
I like it.
Now, in the last part, we discussed the press and pulse phases and the various therapies involved.
Right.
But I'm curious, can we delve a little deeper into how this all plays out at the cellular level?
Absolutely.
I think it would be fascinating to understand
Yeah.
what's actually happening inside those cancer cells
Right.
as they're bombarded with this protocol.
I think sometimes when we talk about cancer treatments,
Uh-huh.
it can feel very abstract.
Yeah.
We throw around terms like cell signaling and metabolic stress,
Right.
but what does that actually look like in the real world?
Right.
Can we paint a picture for our listener?
Let's try. Imagine a cancer cell as a bustling city.
Okay.
It needs a constant supply of energy to fuel its growth and expansion.
Right.
That energy comes primarily from glucose, its preferred fuel source.
Got it.
Now, the ketogenic diet, the foundation of the press pulse protocol, is like cutting off the city's power grid,
Okay.
forcing it to rely on less efficient backup generators.
So we're essentially creating an energy crisis within the cancer cell.
Precisely.
Okay.
This puts a significant strain on the cell, slowing down its growth
Uh-huh.
and making it more vulnerable to other attacks.
Okay, I'm starting to see the picture here.
Okay.
We've cut off their main power supply.
Right.
What happens next?
Now we introduce the targeted supplements,
Okay.
each with its own unique mechanism of action.
Got it.
Let's take berberine as an example.
Okay.
It acts like a saboteur,
Okay.
infiltrating the city's control center,
Right.
disrupting its communication networks.
Okay.
Remember those signaling pathways we mentioned earlier?
Right.
Well, berberine interferes with those pathways,
Okay.
hindering the cancer cell's ability to function properly.
So it's like we're cutting off communication lines, and
Yeah.
causing traffic jams within the city,
Exactly.
preventing it from coordinating its growth and expansion.
That's a great way to put it.
I like it.
Now let's move on to milk thistle.
Okay.
Think of it as this city's repair crew.
Okay.
It helps to mitigate the damage caused by oxidative stress,
Okay.
which is like pollution within the cellular environment.
Oxidative stress.
Yes.
That's something I've heard a lot about in relation to health.
Uh-huh.
What is it exactly, and why is it important here?
So oxidative stress is basically an imbalance between free radicals,
Okay.
which are harmful molecules,
Right.
and antioxidants, which can neutralize them.
Got it.
It's a natural process that happens in all cells,
Yeah.
but when there's too much oxidative stress,
Mm-hmm.
it can damage the cell's vital components,
Right.
making it more susceptible to dysfunction and death.
Okay.
Now, milk thistle comes in as the cleanup crew,
Right.
helping to reduce that oxidative stress
I see.
and protect the cell from further harm.
So it's like sending in a hazmat team to clean up the toxic waste
Exactly.
and prevent further damage.
Yep.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
Now we've got these supplements working together to disrupt the cancer cells' energy production,
Right.
communication systems, and
Right.
repair mechanisms. But what about mebendazole, that repurposed anti-parasitic drug we talked about earlier? Where does it fit into this cellular siege?
Mebendazole takes a more direct approach.
Okay.
It targets the city's transportation system,
Okay.
specifically the microtubules.
Got it.
Microtubules are like the roads and highways within the cell,
Right.
essential for transporting nutrients, proteins, and other vital components.
I see.
Mebendazole disrupts these transportation networks,
Okay.
causing traffic jams
Uh-huh.
and preventing the city from functioning efficiently.
So it's like we're setting up roadblocks and shutting down major highways,
Exactly.
effectively crippling the city's ability to function.
That's right.
It's fascinating how each of these supplements targets a different aspect of the cancer cell's infrastructure.
Yeah, it is.
But we've only talked about the press phase so far.
Right.
What happens when we enter the pulse phase with its intermittent fasting?
Right.
How does that further disrupt the city's operations?
The pulse phase takes this disruption to a whole new level.
Okay.
It's like imposing a citywide lockdown,
Okay.
restricting access to essential resources.
Got it.
Intermittent fasting drastically reduces the availability of nutrients,
Mm-hmm.
further starving the cancer cells
Right.
and pushing them to their limits.
It's like we're cutting off food supplies and water sources,
Right.
forcing the city to ration its resources
exactly.
and weakening it even further.
That's right.
And if I remember correctly,
Right.
we also increase the dosages of those targeted supplements during this phase.
That's right. It's all about maximizing the disruption to those cancer cells.
Right.
We're sending in a larger army of saboteurs,
Yeah,
repair crews, and transportation disruptors
I see.
to really wreak havoc within the city.
This analogy really paints a vivid picture
Yeah.
of how the press pulse protocol works at the cellular level. It's like we're waging a multi-front war against those cancer cells,
That's right.
attacking them from every angle. Exactly.
But I have a question.
Sure.
How does the body differentiate between healthy cells and cancer cells
Right.
during this whole process?
Right.
We don't want to harm the healthy cells, right?
It's a crucial point.
Yeah.
And it highlights the brilliance of this approach.
Okay.
Cancer cells, by their very nature,
Right.
are metabolically different from healthy cells.
Okay.
They're like cities that have grown out of control,
Right.
consuming resources at an unsustainable rate
Uh-huh.
and ignoring the body's regulatory signals.
I see.
They're also more vulnerable to stress,
Okay.
whether it's from a lack of nutrients or exposure to heat.
So they're like cities that are built on shaky foundations
Exactly.
with faulty wiring and leaky pipes.
Yeah,
They're just not as resilient as healthy cells.
exactly. And that's why the press pulse protocol can target them more effectively.
Got it.
Healthy cells, on the other hand,
Yeah.
are more adaptable and resilient.
Okay.
They've evolved to withstand fluctuations in nutrient availability.
And environmental stressors.
It's like the healthy cells are well-organized, sustainable cities, while the cancer cells are chaotic, sprawling megacities that are on the verge of collapse.
Exactly.
But we haven't talked about how heat stress therapy fits into this analogy.
Right.
Can you bring that element to life as well?
Of course. Imagine the heat stress as a citywide heat wave.
Okay.
Now, a well-functioning city with robust infrastructure can withstand a heat wave, right?
Right.
They have cooling centers, efficient transportation systems,
Right.
and ways to distribute water and resources.
Yeah.
Healthy cells are similar.
Okay.
They have mechanisms to cope with heat stress,
Right.
such as those heat shock proteins we mentioned earlier,
Right.
which help to repair damage and maintain cellular function.
So the healthy cells can weather the storm, so to speak.
Exactly.
But what about those cancer cells? How do they handle the heat?
Cancer cells, with their faulty infrastructure and compromised systems,
Right.
are much more susceptible to heat stress.
Okay.
It's like a heat wave hitting a city
Yeah.
that's already struggling with power outages, water shortages, and transportation breakdowns.
Right.
The heat exacerbates these problems,
I see.
pushing the city closer to the brink of collapse.
So the heat stress is like the final straw, tipping those vulnerable cancer cells over the edge?
Precisely.
Wow.
And remember,
Yeah.
heat stress also makes cancer cells more sensitive to other treatments,
Okay.
like chemotherapy and radiation.
Right.
It's like weakening the city's defenses,
Got it.
making it easier for our other weapons to penetrate and inflict damage.
This cellular analogy has been incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
It really brings the science to life.
Yeah.
It helps us understand how the different elements of the Press Pulse protocol work together to target cancer cells. It's like a carefully orchestrated symphony of disruption,
Right.
with each instrument playing its part to weaken and ultimately destroy those rogue cells.
It's a beautiful and complex interplay of mechanisms.
Yeah.
And it highlights the potential of multifaceted approaches in the fight against cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to shift our focus a bit.
Yeah.
And talk about the concept of personalized medicine.
Okay.
We've discussed the general mechanisms of the Press Pulse protocol,
Right.
but how might this protocol be tailored to an individual's specific cancer type and their overall health status?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
While the general principles of the Press Pulse protocol apply broadly,
Right.
the specific implementation can and should vary depending on individual factors.
Okay.
For example, the dosages of supplements might need to be adjusted based on a person's liver function or other health conditions.
Right.
The intensity and type of exercise might also need to be tailored to an individual's fitness level
Okay.
and overall health status.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's about finding the right combination of strategies and dosages that work best for each individual.
Precisely. And that's why it's so important to work with a qualified healthcare professional
Right.
who can assess your individual needs, monitor your progress, and make adjustments along the way.
I see.
It's about finding the right balance between applying pressure to the cancer cells
Right.
while also supporting the body's natural healing mechanisms.
It's like fine-tuning the orchestra.
Exactly.
Making sure each instrument is playing at the right volume and tempo to create the desired effect.
Exactly. It's about personalized precision,
Right.
tailoring the protocol to each individual's unique symphony of health and disease.
This has been such an illuminating discussion.
Good, I'm glad.
We've explored the science behind the Press Pulse protocol, visualized its effects on a cellular level,
Right.
and emphasized the importance of personalized medicine.
Yes.
But our journey isn't over yet. In
Yeah.
the final part of our deep dive, we'll shift our focus to the potential implications of this protocol
Right.
and what it might mean for the future of cancer treatment.
That was good.
So, stay tuned.
Okay.
Welcome back. We've spent the last two parts really dissecting this Press Pulse protocol,
We have.
from the science behind it to how it actually impacts those cancer cells.
It's pretty amazing stuff.
But now I want to step back and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
What does this protocol tell us about the future of cancer treatment?
Well, what's really fascinating is how this protocol challenges the conventional thinking about cancer treatment.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about trying to obliterate cancer cells with these powerful drugs.
Right.
It's about manipulating their environment
Yeah.
and using their own vulnerabilities against them.
It's almost like we're becoming more strategic in our fight against cancer
Exactly.
instead of brute force.
Right.
We're using intelligence and a deep understanding of the enemy to gain an advantage.
Exactly. And that represents a significant shift in how we approach cancer treatment. You know, we're moving away from a purely cytotoxic approach,
Right.
which is simply trying to kill cells,
Yeah.
and toward a more comprehensive strategy that considers the entire ecosystem of the body.
So we're not just focusing on eliminating cancer cells.
Right.
We're also thinking about how to support and strengthen the body's own defenses.
Precisely. We're looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The interplay between the cancer cells, the surrounding environment, and the body's natural healing mechanisms. And that's where the Press-Pulse protocol really stands out. It combines multiple strategies to create this multifaceted assault on cancer cells, while also supporting the body's ability to fight back.
And that multifaceted approach seems to be gaining a lot of attention in cancer research these days.
It is.
More and more. We're seeing studies exploring combination therapies that attack cancer cells from different angles.
Absolutely. There's a growing recognition that cancer is a complex disease. And a single-pronged attack is often not enough. We need to hit it from multiple directions.
Right.
To effectively control its growth and spread.
Makes sense.
And we're seeing this reflected in the research,
Yeah.
with scientists exploring various combinations of therapies, including immunotherapy, targeted therapies, and lifestyle modifications.
So the Press-Pulse protocol, with its combination of diet, supplements, exercise, and heat therapy, could be a glimpse into the future of cancer treatment.
It certainly has that potential. It's an exciting example of how we can use our understanding of cancer cell biology to develop more sophisticated and targeted therapies that are less toxic to the body as a whole.
And it's not just about new drugs or high-tech treatments. This protocol also highlights the power of lifestyle changes.
Yes.
Things like diet and exercise.
Absolutely.
That can have a profound impact on cancer risk and progression.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
We often underestimate the impact of lifestyle on our health.
Yeah, I agree.
The Press-Pulse protocol empowers individuals to take a more proactive role in their own well-being.
Okay.
By making choices that create a less hospitable environment for cancer to develop.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive bystanders in this fight. Right. We can take steps to support our bodies and make them more resilient.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have more control over our health than we might think.
I like that.
And that our daily choices can have a real impact on our risk of developing diseases like cancer.
This is all incredibly promising.
It is.
But I think it's also important to acknowledge that we're still in the early stages of understanding the full potential of the Press-Pulse protocol.
Right.
More research is needed to confirm its effectiveness and safety in the long term.
Absolutely. We need rigorous scientific studies to validate these initial findings.
Yeah.
And to determine the best ways to personalize this protocol for different types of cancer in individuals.
And as we've emphasized throughout this deep dive,
yes,
anyone considering this protocol should absolutely consult with a qualified healthcare professional.
I couldn't agree more.
This is not something to experiment with on your own.
Right. It's essential to have the guidance and supervision of a doctor who can monitor your progress, make adjustments as needed, and ensure that you're receiving the best possible care.
It's about making informed decisions.
Exactly.
And finding the right path for each individual.
Precisely. It's a journey of discovery and collaboration between the patient and the healthcare provider.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the Press-Pulse protocol. We've explored the science behind it, visualized its effects on a cellular level, and discussed its potential implications for the future of cancer treatment. It's clear that this protocol is pushing the boundaries of our understanding.
It is.
And offering a glimpse into a new era of cancer care.
I agree.
One that embraces multifaceted approaches, empowers individuals to take an active role in their own health, and strives to create a less hospitable environment for cancer to thrive.
It's an exciting time to be involved in this field, and I'm truly optimistic about what the future holds as we continue to unlock the secrets of cancer and develop innovative strategies to combat it.
And who knows, maybe one day protocols like the Press-Pulse will become standard practice, offering hope and resilience to countless people navigating their cancer journeys.
I believe that's a future worth striving for.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, we encourage you to keep researching. Keep learning.
Keep asking questions.
The world of cancer research is constantly evolving.
It is.
And staying informed is one of the most powerful tools we have in this fight. As always, thanks for diving deep with us.